board games and solo play. That's what we're going to explore from the perspective of not a dedicated rule set or dedicated AI, but perhaps a game that was intended to play with other people, or a game that has an overlord system where maybe it's 4 players versus 1 player. How do you take on that role of the other side? Now, certainly board games have kind of evolved where many of them will have a dedicated AI system, or they will have some way for the game to play against the other players, whether that's 1 player or multiple players. Some of these are very sophisticated. Some of these are simplistic, but that simplicity is the magnifying force behind it. A great example would be Dark Souls, the board game. The monsters that you fight, especially the boss monsters, have cards and have an AI that dictate what they do. And it's randomly determined with the boss monsters how they're going to act. So you're fighting against them and you kind of have to have a plan and see what you can do. Other systems that have a really simple but effective AI, Zombicide, whether it's Black Plague, Invader, Modern, essentially you have zombie spawn points and you flip cards, and based on the threat level, that's what spawns. And there's different variants of zombies or aliens, Xenos, if it's Invader, that move around on the table. Those games are set up to play against players, whether it's 1 player or multiple players. But here's another great example. I love Conan. It's a great, great system because the resources of the game are such that it's not like you take 1 or 2 actions. We need this kind of framework. When you're playing Conan, both for the Overlord and also the players, you have a number of resource gems, and you expend those gems to take actions. When you take damage, you lose those gems, and every turn, depending on the rest cycle, you gain a few of those gems back. How many of those gems you use at any given turn, that's up to you. So in my turn, I can move, spend some gems to move. I can attack, spend some gems to attack. I can move again, spend some gems. I can break through a wall or leap over an object, spend some gems. I can manipulate a weapon, toss it to the player next to me so they can use it. I can then throw my knife, use some gems, but then I have like 1 left. I've exhausted myself, and if I get hit, I'm out. So with that perspective, and the Overlord does the same thing, activating minions and bosses and things like that, the game is set up to make decisions. So how would we solo that? Now that we have that framework, why would we want to solo a game? I'm going to offer my perspective. Sometimes, if this is a new title that I want to bring to the gaming club or play with the group, I want to have an understanding of how to play it. So sometimes I will solo a game because I want to work myself through the rules. Mage Knight was a great example. Mage Knight plays solo, but I wanted to start bringing it to the gaming club, and I didn't want to have downtime of looking up rules and scenarios. So just playing Mage Knight with multiple characters and making those decisions. So sometimes you want to learn the rules real time. Yes, we can watch videos. Yes, I will absolutely check out BGG. But sometimes just getting in there analog, rolling the dice, moving stuff around really helps cement those rules. Another reason might be you want to try out some combinations. You want to try out some different character classes. You want to try out some different characters. When we were playing Descent 2nd Edition and making our way through the campaign and multiple expansions with the same character, I wanted to just try out a few of the different characters before I committed. So I played a couple of the missions solo just to roll some dice, see what they can take, see what they can do. Sometimes you want to try things out. Other times, life gets in the way, right? We all have responsibilities with work, family, school, and sometimes we can't always make it to the board gaming club, or we can't make it to the gaming group. Initially, what got me started in board gaming, as a great example, was I was doing this wargaming thing. I'm doing this Dungeons and Dragons thing, this RPG thing, and I had a switch with my schedule for 4 months. Essentially, I was going to be working at nights and not really able to make it to the gaming club, and I was committed during the day with school, and I really only had maybe between midnight-ish to like 1 or 2 in the morning to just kind of chill out for a bit. Now, being a wargamer, I should have been using that time to paint miniatures. Absolutely. But we're not going to do that. I wanted to jump in and play some gaming, roll some dice. So I jumped in with Runebound and a couple of other games with the pure intent of playing solo, just so I could keep those tactics going in my mind. And that was my jump not only into board games, but also solo games. So I say that because you might have an amazing collection, and there's times where just, look, I can't make it to the club right now to play. I want to pull down a title and see what I can do. Now we've got that framework. Yes, in terms of solo play, systems that are not set up for it, more and more what we're seeing is companion AI or apps. A great example is Hero Quest. It's one versus many, but there's an app that controls the monsters and takes care of that lifting where you could play with your friends and not have an overlord. There are some systems that you can put into an emulator, or a great example would be like Mythic is an emulator for role-playing games, but you can have it make decisions for board games. There are kind of analog emulators out there that will make those decisions of where to move and what to do for the boss monsters. The challenge with that, of course, is depending on the emulator, some of them are very sophisticated, it might pull away from the narrative of the game a little bit, right? When I get into this board gaming thing, I'm immersing myself into it. And if I have to stop and think about the rules or really move things and make those decision trees, it could kind of break that immersion. But that's kind of all perspective. There are some great things. What I find is just a quick decision tree, two options. The first is when I'm playing solo without a dedicated AI, it's more like watching a movie unfold. We're going on this quest, we're playing this game, and we'll just kind of see what happens along the way from both perspectives. So one possibility is to play both sides of the system. So I play the adventurers, but then I also make the overlord moves or the other side's move. And I try to make the most optimal moves for that to happen, for playing both sides. A second option is to just D6 it or D10 it. Here's, I move into the character, I move into the room, here's the monster. What's the monster going to do? 1, 2, 3, fire. 4, 5, 6, run forward and charge. 7, 8, 9, move away. 10, right? Do nothing. Stand there. Come up with some simplified AI. And in this case, the more random, the better. Not always to have optimized moves. Usually if I do a D6 or a D10 quick little chart and I jot down the possibilities, like, use special power, expend this, move here, do that. I want to inject some stuff, all possibilities, but again, that's not always optimal. So this way, that randomness in watching the game and playing it, you're kind of like, I didn't expect that, or that wasn't the best move, or this creates an interesting chain of events. So coming up with that simple D6, D8, D10, depending on how many options that monster or the board game has, seeing it happen from that. And I find that system kind of works really, really well. It's quick. It doesn't break the immersion. But again, that's on one side, but we've also got apps, we've also got emulators, we've also got make the best move. And that's approaching a board game from the system perspective where there is not a dedicated AI or there is not a rule set for it. It's a multiplayer game, adapting that to one. So turning it over to my fellow board gaming enthusiasts, you've got that title. You want to play it for whatever reason, learning the rules, getting it out on the tabletop. How do you AI a system that doesn't have an AI solo system to it?